Hey, good evening, Milpitas. Thanks for tuning in on Facebook Live or YouTube.com. And we are streaming live and want to welcome folks here in the chamber as well on this fine evening, November the 16th of 2021. I have been spending a little bit of time recently thinking about our work here in City Hall with our community and how it goes down in history and how special and meaningful and such an honor it is to serve our city. So we get to do it again tonight. We just came out of closed session, folks. If you've been standing by since 6 p.m. And we'll go to our city attorney this evening, Martin de Los Angeles, for any announcements before we proceed.
Thank you, Mayor. Just wanted to note that if there was no final action taken, then there would be no reportable action. There is no reportable action with respect to this item.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Moving on here to the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the invocation. Tonight's invocation is presented by Councilmember Evelyn Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. And when I requested Sister Noni Noman of St. John the Baptist Church of Milpitas to deliver the November Invocation, she said she has a better idea. So tonight, we have the 2nd through 7th graders of St. John the Baptist School Choir with St. Francis prayer of "Make me a channel of your peace." Here it goes. you so much. That is beautiful. That is so beautiful. Thank you to Sister Noni and also school principal, Mr. Brazil. It's really what we need now. I mean, if there's hatred, there should be love. If there's sadness, joy. If there's darkness, light. And if there's doubt, faith. Thank you to the St. John the Baptist School Choir.
Yeah, I'll give it up to that one. Yeah. We love St. John the Baptist. Okay, thank you very much. You're welcome, Councilmember Chu, and thank you for the children at St. John the Baptist School. We had our hearts touched this evening, and what a great start for this evening. Absolutely. Moving on to presentations tonight, there are no presentations. Moving on to public forum. Tonight we're doing 2 minutes. We're doing 2 minutes tonight. It's a light agenda, and we'll be able to manage everybody. So 2 minutes for the public forum. If you're here in the chamber, come on up if you'd like to comment on anything here in the chamber. Welcome, Mr. Montemayor. Come on up. Let me call you up here, sir.
Voltaire Montemayor or Milpitas, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of the City Council, City Manager and staff. Yeah, I'm touched. I go to that school on the church almost every day, so and still get the book. I sing that song also. Very nice. Probably we knew each other. Yeah, nice kid, nice school. Mentioned the principal, and yeah, the sisters. Thank you. Very nice song. Oh, I scribbled some notes a while ago. Anyway, I'm not reading it. This is temporaneous now. Yeah, what I have in mind, what I had in mind is the care, of course, the city asked for the probable homeless, probable eviction. Us, citizens, and all, our awareness and care to those concerned. I know I've been seeing close to eviction probably, but not. I think the city officers, police officers were there at my neighborhood for 2 days, 2 nights, 2 days, and I was just guessing. I'm at the neighborhood, so did it good. And the lady that may need help, it could probably in that instance or example has been resolved. I would say the lady is not there anymore. 24 hours sitting by herself at the walkway, luggages in front of her, belongings. So we hope.
Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank
Yes, 2 minutes this evening, sir. Thank you. I see no further requests from the chamber. And we'll go to the Zoom platform here. Let me just press a couple buttons. If you're here with us online, I do see a handful of attendees joining us this evening via Zoom. Welcome. And it's the public forum. If you'd like to comment, now would be the time. Going once, going twice, see no virtual raise hands. Moving on to announcements and future agenda items, and we'll go to our city manager, Stephen McHarris.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. I have no announcements this evening.
Thank you very much, Steve. I just we'll bring it back up here, over here to this side of the dais. I want to take a moment to congratulate the Milpitas High School marching band and color guard for placing a second at the regional competition over the weekend up in Union City at James Logan High School. It was, from what I've been told from the band director, the highest rated performance by the marching band and color guard as far as the band program goes for that competition, which is the sort of granddaddy of them all around these parts. So just so proud. Our marching band and color guard have really performed at a level of excellence over the course of their season, and they will be recognized by our city. But other than that, those are my announcements, and we'll go to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I too attended the preliminary, well, actually, I didn't go to the Dogan High School, but I did attend with Commissioner Deepak Aswasti at the preliminary event for the marching band at Milpitas High School. And it is so different now. Before they were just like, stiff, marching, but now they use choreography, they use costumes. It is amazing. If anyone ever has an opportunity to go and see them in action, it's really a great event. It's really spectacular. The other thing I have is as a request is to look into the city, to look into mural art on Great Mall Parkway. There are pillars there that are part of the light rail system. And that's why I asked about a couple of meetings ago for the mural ordinance to see if that is allowed. So I'm going to ask the staff to look into that mural art on the Great Mall Parkway on the light rail pillars. If we can put some art, I think it would be really great. Since that whole area is being developed, it would be great to see some art there on the pillars. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Perhaps we can make contact with folks over at the VTA as well, concurrently as I believe they're the property owners there for the above ground or above street level light rail. Okay. Next up, we have Councilmember Fan.
Thank you. My request pertains to the city's third-party food delivery fee cap urgency ordinance that we passed earlier last year. I've been receiving complaints from restaurants that DoorDash is charging rates that go beyond what our ordinance currently allows. Now, the city and county of San Francisco, as well as the City Council of New York, have made temporary fee caps permanent. I'd like for us to consider that, as well as adding additional provisions regarding enforcement.
That's a great idea. Absolutely. Let's send that over to the city manager, but also the city attorney, obviously, to get some work and bring that back. Small businesses, absolutely. Next up, we have Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. And before I go with my announcement, I just want to thank Rochelle for making all these videos and these flyers on invocation and announcements possible. Thank you for coordinating that. Good job. As a council representative at the Library Commission, we had a meeting last night, and they brought up the new library evening hours. So, Rochelle, can we have the flyer, please? So now what is noted here is Wednesday and Thursdays, they start from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. So that's new hours. And the next one great news, actually. Uh-oh, there's an echo?
Yeah, I do hear a little bit of an echo. Carry on. Work through it. Oh, there's mine. Okay. Something new.
Daniel is
Something new every
fixing
night.
it.
Yeah.
But here. Oh. Daniel is okay? Okay. Great news. The library received. Uh-oh.
Right. There's an echo. Hey, I can hear myself. All right, we got IT working on it right now. No big deal. Odd timing, but better to resolve this issue now than have it continue. I don't hear an echo. See, just when I spoke. Let's take a 1-minute recess.
Okay. Good call.
All right, just testing the microphone system. Testing. M I L P I T A S. Milpitas. Nice. Number one. That's a chant for the Pee Wee kids. Hey, I know we're live streaming here, folks. It sounds a little weird, but we're just doing a sound check here. This is a hybrid meeting, folks, here in the chamber and at home. And I don't hear any further echoes. Perhaps this is a good sign. We had some feedback if you're just tuning in. If you've been if you've been watching, then you're a part of this journey with us. But just speaking into the microphone as a sort of a sound check. So bear with us and bear with us and yeah, put up with me a little bit here. All right, here we go. Okay. All right, back to the meeting here. Let's get back to business here. Okay, let's give it another try. And that's it with the recess. Here we go. Councilmember Chua, please carry on.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. For the announcements, we show that this one. So they have evening hours for the library. Please note of that one. And also one exciting thing happened last night at the commission meeting. The first library received a generous donation from one of our residents. The first gold level donor. A gold level is from 5,000 to 9,999. He said that he noticed there was no gold level donor. So he wanted to be the first one. He said that for many years, he has enjoyed the friendliness of the staff and liked the different book selections. So thank you so much to our resident for that donation. Milpitas FD video that we can see last meeting. Can we please show that again? The Milpitas FD, Milpitas are. There's still echoing.
Yeah, it's a light echo. Let's just see if we can move the meeting forward here while we try to resolve the audio.
There you go.
Okay.
Is Rochelle ready? If not, I'm going to go to my next one. As a council representative to the Silicon Valley Clean Energy, I'm one of the board of directors. And we received $5,000 from them. We actually a donation pledge for $5,000 for the Holiday Magic on Main Street. So they're a gold donor. Thank you,
yeah.
SBC.
Thank you, Councilmember Chua.
Okay, it has been my request. I have two. It has been brought to my attention that the ADU corner is live. So I'm asking the executive staff to do a webinar on ADU tool demo because it's together with the ADU Mondays and the ADU corner. I think this will jumpstart our drive to have more ADU constructions in Milpitas. Remember, we have the 1.5 million that was the council approved. So that's one. And number two, I would, currently there are two courts at Peter Gill Park that are being used for tennis players to practice hitting the balls against the wall. and soccer players are practicing their kicks. My request is to take a look at a pilot project to enhance these courts to accommodate pickleball players. A feasibility study with the goal of making these courts a multi-purpose courts where all three sports can play safely, including the basketball players close by. So I'm looking at the executive team and the safety team for guidance. That's all I have, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Chua, and I love hearing pickleball and some of these small touches mean the biggest things for our community. So I did go out there with you. Thank you for taking me out there and leading me out there and showing me the opportunity. Pickleball is in Milpitas, and I learned a lot from you that day. And I think with some minor things, we can do major things. And so thank you for that. I saw our city manager noted everything, so that's fantastic. All right, that's it with announcements and future agenda items. And we'll move on to announcement of conflict of interest and campaign contributions. We'll go to our city attorney of the evening, Martin de Los Angeles.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'll ask the mayor and each council member whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any.
And he's here. I see him on the Zoom.
Is there any sound? Can anyone hear me?
Yes, welcome, loud and clear.
Okay, I'll start again. Thank you, Mayor. So I'll ask the mayor and each council member whether he or she has any financial or personal conflict of interest related to any of the items on tonight's agenda. I'll start with Council Member Chua.
None.
Council Member Fan,
None.
Vice Mayor Montano,
None.
and Mayor Tran.
None.
I will also ask the mayor and council members to please disclose any campaign contributions of $100 or more received within the last 12 months from any parties entering into any contracts with the city on tonight's agenda, or contributions received from development project applicants for projects on tonight's agenda. Council Member Chua,
None.
Council Member Fan,
None.
Vice Mayor Montano,
None.
and Mayor Tran.
None.
Let the record reflect none to both questions. And Mayor, I'm happy to read the code of conduct if you'd like.
Yes, please.
So Milpitas City Council Code of Conduct: be respectful and courteous, words, tone, and body language. Model civility, avoid surprises, praise publicly and criticize privately. Focus on the issue, not the person. Refrain from using electronic devices while on the council dais. Disclose conflicts of interest and affiliations related to agenda items. Separate governing from campaigning. The council speaks with one voice after making policy on issues. Respect the line between policy and administration. The council will hold one another accountable to comply with this code of conduct.
Thank you very much, Martin. And we'll keep the meeting going here. Moving on to the approval of agenda. I'll move to approve the agenda. Need a second. We got a second from Councilmember Fan. And we'll go to the vote. Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano.
Aye.
And myself and I, the agenda is approved. Moving on here to consent calendar. And I'd like to add number 17 to the consent. Other items, I got to hold myself back. I think we should hear the other items very much in all seriousness. But item number 17, I'd like to put on the consent calendar this evening. And we will see if there's any further requests by the council. I'll look for the consent calendar. Vice Mayor Montano.
I'd like to pull C5 and C8, just quick questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
C5 and C8. You can ask those quick questions right now.
No, I'll wait. And C11.
Okay, C5, C8, and C11. Okay. All right. Any further requests for the consent calendar? Going once, going twice. I see no further requests. And so for the consent calendar, we're going to add on item number 17, we're pulling items 5, 8, and 11, and those will be heard at the end of the agenda. Okay, great. I'll move to approve the consent calendar. I'm pretty sure Martin's got it jotted down. Let's go to our Assistant City Manager here at this moment, Ashwini Kantak, with the virtual raised hand.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Tran. So for item 17, it cannot be approved. That item per CalPERS cannot be approved on consent, so it will have to be approved as part of the discussion items.
Okay, great. Thank you. Rules are the rules. I tried. Okay, great. All righty. Okay, so let me repeat myself here. No items will be added to the consent. We are pulling items number 5, 8, and 11 per the request of the Vice Mayor to be discussed. I do see a request for the microphone. Vice Mayor Montano.
I just want to approve the agenda with the consent items that were pulled.
Okay, so you'd like to move to approve the consent calendar as stated.
Yes.
Okay, very well. And we'll go to Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. I was going to pull C4, but since Councilmember Dominguez is not here, I would like this to be agendized next meeting, please.
Okay, very well.
Thank you
It's,
so much.
It's actually on every agenda, every meeting, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know, but due diligence, right? Okay, very well. So I'll second the Vice Mayor's motion to approve consent calendar with items pulled, items 5, 8, 11 for good measure. That's the second on that motion. We'll go to the vote. Council member, let's go to the city clerk, Wendy Wood.
I just wanted to clarify if item C4 is included or not included.
A C4 will be on the consent calendar.
Okay.
Thank you so much. All righty, attention, here we go. Let's go to the vote. Councilmember Chua to approve the consent
Aye.
calendar. We have an aye from Councilmember Chua. Next up, we have a Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
We have an aye from Councilmember Fan. Next up, we have the Vice Mayor.
Aye.
We have an aye from the Vice Mayor. Myself is an aye. The consent calendar has been approved with item 5, 8, and 11 being pulled. Let's keep it going here to public hearings. Item number 16. Let's introduce ordinance number 48.22, amending chapter 200, solid waste management of Title 5, public health, safety, and welfare of the Milpitas Municipal Code to comply with SB 1383 requirements. And we will go to the staff contact here. But I do see our Public Works Director. I'm gonna go through the chain of command. That's how I was trained to do. I'm gonna go with the chain of command. Our Director of Public Works, Tony Enda.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council members. I'm here with the Public Works Department, and I'm just here to hand off the presentation to Elaine Marshall, Deputy Public Works Director, who will walk you through the various amendments to the municipal code for the cities to be in compliance with SB 1383. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks, Tony. Can someone pull up the presentation, please? Great. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. I'm Elaine Marshall, and I'm hearing quite a bit of echo, so I'll try to work through it and talk slowly tonight. As Tony mentioned, I'm here to provide an update on SB 1383 implementation, as well as provide an overview of the requirements and the enforcement ordinance that is before you tonight. Next slide, please. So the presentation will go over, as I said, the overview of the Senate Bill 1383, specifically the jurisdiction requirements, and then the proposed ordinance and municipal code revisions, as well as next steps for our implementation. Next slide, please. So SB 1383, also known as the Short-Lived Climate Pollutants Act, was signed into law in 2016. Spent several years in the rulemaking phase and was adopted.
I'm gonna pause you there if I may. I'm not going to let you do this presentation with the sound not to adequate level, acceptable levels. So we're gonna treat you right. We're gonna treat this right here. So yeah, we're not going to have you do this presentation like with the echo, but
Yeah,
stand by.
I appreciate that.
Stand by. Absolutely. Yeah. And we can't let anybody, part of our organization, go through that. But we're gonna fix this very quickly.
All right, so my speaker is on. Testing, Daniel, testing. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, Tony.
All right. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Hear you, Elaine.
I echoed on purpose on that one. Sorry.
Okay, Elaine, let's have you continue speaking as a test, please.
All right. So I'm speaking and not echoing, and that's good. Hopefully that continues. It is forcing me to speak more slowly, so that's good too. Do you think Daniel can hear me in the chambers? Should I keep talking?
We can hear you. Sure, go ahead and put the slide on, Daniel. Sorry, Rochelle, can you put the slide on, please? And let's go 2 slides back. All right, Elaine, why don't you go ahead and give this a try, test it.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I'm Elaine Marshall. I'm here to provide the update tonight on SB 1383 implementation here in Milpitas and provide an overview of the ordinance and revisions to the municipal code carrying out the requirements. Next slide.
Elaine, I don't think they hear you.
Oh, in the chambers, they can't hear me? Mm.
I
We
don't
can
think
hear
so
you,
because
but we're on
they're-
recess.
Okay, we'll continue. So Elaine, please continue speaking.
Okay, so as part of the presentation tonight, I will be going over the requirements and goals of SB 1383, the specific jurisdictional requirements, the enforcement ordinance and municipal code revisions needed to carry out the requirements, as well as next steps specific to Milpitas.
It's good right there, thanks. There's no echo coming through, Daniel. Okay, good. All right, thank you.
Test, mic test. Test 1, 2, 3. Rochelle, how do you hear? It's echoing from, is it echoing?
All right. All right, just unmuted. We're testing. We're testing. Let's go to slide number 2, please. Someone can advance it. We're on slide number 2 right now for the agenda overview of Senate Bill 1383. I think this is where we left off. We just pause right here. Sure. Okay, let's go back to the beginning presentation, please. Right. And Elaine, if you wouldn't mind going through the first 2 slides. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
If she can hear me, here we go.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council. I'm Elaine Marshall, Deputy Public Works Director. I'm here tonight to provide an update on the SB 1383 requirements, our local implementation, and to provide an overview of the ordinance, which revises the municipal code to meet SB 1383 implementation requirements. Next slide, please. We'll start with an overview tonight, then I'll go into specific jurisdictional requirements that are specified in SB 1383, and we'll walk through the ordinance and municipal code revisions, and then talk about next steps for implementation here in Milpitas. Next slide, please.
All right, thank you. We'll stop here, everyone. Thank you.
Mic test 1, 2, 3. Mic test.
All right, folks. We are back here from our recess. Just really, we're giving attention to our technology here and technical things we're resolving, and I think we will do that. So I want to thank folks at home for their patience and understanding. This is a hybrid meeting, and as you know, folks in our community, if you have been working remotely or hybrid, there may be some technical issues every now and then. So with that being said, we're back from the recess, and let's look to carry on with our Deputy Director of Public Works, Elaine Marshall.
Great. Good evening again, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Council members. This time without the echo. Let's move on to the next slide, please. As I said, I'm here to go over the, provide an overview of Senate Bill 1383, walk through the specific jurisdictional requirements that new law lays out, and discuss the ordinance and proposed revisions to the Milpitas Municipal Code that are required to carry out the new state law, and talk through next steps with local implementation. Next slide, please. So SB 1383 was signed into law in 2016. It spent a few years in the rulemaking phase and was adopted in November of 2020. The new regulations take effect statewide starting January 1, 2022, which is just a few months away. SB 1383 seeks to reduce methane emissions from dairy and livestock, as well as from organic waste decomposing in landfills. And that is the piece that's most applicable to Milpitas and to all other cities and towns in California. As you can see on the graph, on the pie chart here, organic material that is landfilled makes up almost 2/3 of total landfilled material statewide. So the goal of SB 1383 is to reduce the amount of organic material going into landfill. As the material breaks down, it produces methane, which is a more potent greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, and a big contributor to climate change. So diverting organic materials, things like yard waste, paper, food scraps, reduce methane emissions. And specifically in Milpitas, when we separate our food scraps and place them in the food scrap section of our split cart, we're keeping those materials out of the landfill, and actually that material is diverted and turned into animal feed. Next slide, please. So SB 1383 establishes very aggressive statewide targets that build on current legislation by expanding the scope of organics requirements and authorizing enforcement as well as compliance. By 2025, there was a 75% reduction target of 75% reduction of landfill waste target statewide. And also by 2025, the law targets that 20% of currently disposed edible food be recovered and used for human consumption. And I'll go into that a little bit more in some slides later today. That's a fairly new concept. Next slide, please. So these 5 components make up the largest requirements for jurisdictions to implement. These include that all jurisdictions should provide organics collection services to all residents and businesses, and that the jurisdictions adopt an enforcement ordinance. So that's the action that's up for consideration by the council tonight. The second main component is that jurisdictions establish a food recovery program. And then moving on, jurisdictions need to conduct education and outreach to the community, monitor compliance and conduct enforcement, and procure recyclable and recovered organic products. There's a 6th component that is being led by the county that focuses on assessing and determining the amount of edible food recovery capacity within the county. Since they're taking lead on that one, I will not be going over that tonight. But the rest of the presentation will focus on these 5 key areas. Next slide, please. So the widest reaching of the requirements is to provide organics collection to all residents and businesses. The city of Milpitas is in a good position with SB 1383 compliance here, because this regulation was anticipated and incorporated into our franchise agreement with Milpitas Sanitation when the new program was rolled out. So in some respects, Milpitas was ahead of the curve on this one. The residential split carts provide for separation of food scraps, which meets this requirement. And our containers are already compliant with the standard color coding for materials that was established statewide. The requirements also require all cities to adopt an enforcement ordinance, which we'll go over a little bit later today, which will satisfy this requirement. And one of the key things that will be focused for our implementation going forward is to really conduct additional outreach to businesses and multifamily properties in order to inform them of these new statewide requirements and to provide assistance to ensure that they can participate in the program and understand what their responsibilities are. Next slide, please. So the newest of the requirements is to establish an edible food recovery program. In general terms, what this component intends to do is to take food that a business would otherwise discard that is still edible and meets health and safety guidelines, and donate that food and provide it to those in our community who may be food insecure. There's a lot of different terms and definitions related to this concept, and I'll go over those at a high level. So food generators are any business that generates edible food that could be discarded at the end of the day when it's not sold. These include supermarkets, wholesale food distributors, and large restaurants. A food recovery organization is an organization that takes donated food and provides it to those who are in need in our community. And so for SB 1383, the requirement is that certain food generators contract with a food recovery organization to accept any food that meets health and safety standards, that's still edible, provide it to that organization for donation and distribution to those in need in our community. The generators are required to maintain records and are subject to inspection. And this component is phased, and covered businesses are divided into 2 tiers. The tier 1 businesses, which are large supermarkets and food distributors and large restaurants, need to begin complying with this requirement in January of 2022. And then there's a second phase that takes effect in 2024. And these are for other businesses such as restaurants that are of a certain size, as well as large events and large venues. So this program is being implemented on a countywide basis, specifically because most large food generators tend to be chain supermarkets or wholesale food distributors that work across jurisdictional boundaries. And food recovery organizations such as Second Harvest Food Bank also work across jurisdictional boundaries. So it was determined that it would be best to have standard requirements across the county to make implementation simpler. And then for this component, the the actual implementation is being led by joint venture Silicon Valley, and city staff are working closely with them as well as with other city staff across the county to implement these requirements and establish common outreach and messaging to the various covered businesses. Next slide, please. And that kind of leads into the outreach and education component. SB 1383 also requires that jurisdictions provide outreach to the community and to businesses to provide technical assistance. We've already started doing that. When we send out newsletters, we have started to tease and provide information about the new law and when it takes effect. Milpitas Sanitation has already established a website information, and we will continue to work on getting the word out via all our different outreach and education channels, including social media and community events. So you'll start to hear a lot more about the importance of organics, diversion, and collection programs going forward. Next slide, please. I think the most challenging of the requirements are the procurement requirements of SB 1383. The intent is good, and the intent for this is that we close the loop on organics recycling. So on one hand, SB 1383 mandates that organic materials are diverted from landfill and recycled and turned into other products. This side of SB 1383 requires jurisdictions and cities to buy some of that recovered or recycled products. One piece is fairly straightforward. It requires that jurisdictions buy paper products that are made with a minimum of 30% recycled content. For Milpitas, we already exceed that for our copier paper because we buy 100% post-consumer recycled content copier paper. This reaches a little bit further than just copier paper and requires that even our janitorial products, things like our paper towels, toilet paper, is also made with 30% recycled content. And so we're working with purchasing on ensuring that going forward, all of our janitorial products comply as well. The second piece of the procurement requirements are definitely more challenging, and it requires that all cities purchase a certain amount of diverted organic product. This can be compost or mulch or renewable natural gas that is deemed compliant and generated from emissions, or electricity that is generated from organics. This one is particularly challenging because SB 1383 establishes these impractically high requirements. So for example, the amount a city has to purchase is based on its population. And so for Milpitas, we're required to purchase about 6,700 tons of mulch if we were to meet this requirement with just mulch, or 3,900 tons of compost. Just to give you a sense of magnitude, I think we did a rough calculation. 3,900 tons of compost is about 170,000 bags of compost. It is definitely more than we can ever give away or that we could ever use on city property. And so one of the things we're doing is continuing to try to figure out the most cost-effective way of meeting this requirement. I think the other challenge with this requirement, and I think unintended consequences that wasn't thought through when some of these targets were established, was that the compost markets aren't quite ready to even provide all of this product to the various cities, nor are the electricity or natural gas industries able to meet these demands. And so we've been having conversations with different stakeholders, other cities, partner agencies such as ABEG Power and Silicon Valley Clean Energy and the county to explore viable options. I hope that this becomes a little bit more clear in the next few months, and we are shooting to bring an update to council on options for complying with this specific requirement, as well as cost implications later in 2022 for the council to consider and provide direction on. Next slide, please. And then the last of the requirements for SB 1383 is that the local jurisdictions actively monitor for compliance and participation amongst our residents and businesses, and that these residents and businesses could be subject to fines and penalties for failure to comply. And overall, SB 1383 also provides Cal Recycle, which is a state agency that oversees this, the authority to issue fines and penalties to jurisdictions like Milpitas if we don't implement the laws and the regulations. And so there is a lot of teeth behind this new law, and I think a lot of cities are working to comply and bring forward their enforcement ordinances as well at the same time as we are now. Next slide, please. So that brings me to the enforcement ordinance and the revisions to the municipal code that are before you tonight. These requirements and revisions were developed from a model enforcement ordinance language that was provided by Cal Recycle. We as staff worked with the city attorney's office to identify the components to bring over and to include in our revisions to the municipal code. And in summary, these include adding definitions to the municipal code, setting requirements for single family homes to participate in the organics program, setting requirements for commercial businesses, including multifamily properties, and establishing the requirements for the edible food recovery program that I had discussed earlier. Other changes or additions to the municipal code also define de minimis waivers. So for businesses that generate very, very small amounts of organic waste, they can apply for a waiver from these requirements. And those levels are defined by Cal Recycle and are carried over into our municipal code. And then there are also requirements for proper handling of organic material for haulers and facility operators, as well as anyone who might be self-hauling their organic waste. We're also establishing requirements and authorities to inspect properties and conduct investigations into participation, and then establish kind of enforcement requirements and penalties, which are consistent with other level violations and penalties in the city's ordinance. One of the, we do have a proposed change to the ordinance that was included in your packet. We are proposing to amend the section related to waivers. Specifically, we're asking to amend section V-200-3.22 of the Milpitas Municipal Code to delete subsections B and C and to re-letter subsection D to B. And that sounded like a lot of jargon, but what we're trying to do is clean up a little bit of the proposed municipal code revisions to remove language that was carried over from the Cal Recycle model ordinance, giving generators the option to apply for certain waivers, including physical space waivers and other additional waivers. these waivers were actually optional in the SB 1383 regulations and not clearly defined. And so we wanted to remove some ambiguity and set standard expectations for all and clear expectations for who needs to participate, who must participate and who can't. And so that's why we are recommending that slight change to the ordinance, and we'll be bringing those back for when we come back for the second reading. Next slide, please. And so the next steps from tonight, we are scheduled to return with the ordinance for the second reading and adoption at your meeting on December 7th. We as staff are continuing to work to establish our inspection and enforcement process. We're continuing to work with Milpitas Sanitation on additional education and outreach and technical assistance to businesses and multifamily properties. We will continue to participate in the regional edible food recovery efforts. And then, as I mentioned, we're evaluating procurement options and financial impacts of each of those options, and we'll return to council in 2022 for direction. Next slide, please. So the recommendation tonight is really for the city attorney to read aloud the title, move to waive the reading beyond the title, and introduce ordinance number 48.22, amending chapter 200 of the solid waste management of Title 5 of the Milpitas Municipal Code. That's it for my presentation tonight. I'm also joined by Mivang Seaman, who's our solid waste program manager here in Public Works, and we're here to answer any questions the council might have.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. And let's keep this going. I'm going to move to open up the public hearing. If there are no objections to opening up the public hearing, hearing no objections, the public hearing is now open. Let's take public comment. Mr. Montemayor, come on up. Press the button on the microphone, perhaps. We'll get your microphone there. Yeah. Maybe, do we adjust the microphones? We'll get it for you. 1 second.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, Voltaire, Montano, Milpitas. Yeah, the word is the methane, reducing that methane per percentage. And the word recycle is always good. So in other words, on top of the chapter 200 amending it, maybe additional is a good precautionary one. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, no further requests from the chamber. We'll go to the Zoom, the chamber in the sky. Looking at our attendees this evening, we're on item number 16. It's a public hearing. You're on the Zoom. You're watching us on video, wherever you're at. If you'd like to speak during this public hearing with a public comment, go ahead and raise your virtual raised hand. If not, going once, going twice. Seeing no virtual raised hands, that's it for public comment at this time. The public hearing, let's just keep it open now. Bringing it back up to the council here. I think it's pretty straightforward, the presentation. Thank you, Elaine. This is something that we've been tracking for years, right? We're ahead of the game. If only we can go back to 2016. But we're here in 2021. Geez, how time flies. I appreciate the efforts from our community to divert waste. And I know our state's taking the lead in this Senate bill. And so we have the public hearing right now. I'll go to the next up here, the Vice Mayor, Carmen Montano.
Thank you, Mayor. So Elaine, I had a question about the methane. Now I know that at Newbie Island, they capture that methane and then they turn around and sell it. So, but here you're talking about it's going to be turned into compost. So I'm just not clear on that. Why?
Sure, Vice Mayor Montano, just to clarify, the goal of SB 1383 is to reduce organics that go to landfills where it decomposes and produces methane. Some landfills capture methane. I think Newbie Island captures some methane, which is then used for other purposes. But a large portion of landfills across the state, and even some of the methane from Newbie Island, it's flared off, which means it's just burned off into the atmosphere. And so those are the reasons why SB 1383 was passed, is to reduce that methane that is not captured and used and could be flared and otherwise just emitted into the atmosphere.
Okay. The other question I have is, you mentioned about residents. How are we going to, is there going to be like a policing effort? Someone checking people's garbage cans? What, I'm not sure what do you mean by?
Sure.
The resident.
I think police is not the right word. I think there will be, and the Senate bill does require that jurisdictions audit the residential collection routes. So on a regular basis, there will be some random audits where we will have staff looking at the carts and the containers that are set out, identifying if residents are sorting properly, if the materials are not being contaminated. Our goal is always to educate first, and so there will be opportunities to use that information to educate directly those residents, and also in general to change and update our outreach and education materials that we're addressing those issues and helping residents comply without having to resort to penalties and fines and police.
Yeah, that would be great. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. And next we go, Councilmember Evelyn Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Jan. I just want to comment. I do really like the waivers that was set up, Elaine. So making that, clarifying that, and making sure that these waivers are enforced and clear on the ordinance. Thank you for doing that. Thank you for your team as well. Thank you, Mayor Tran.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Chua. And yes, we'll always do our best here locally for our residents in any circumstance where the state is driving sort of policy decisions. Like this item, okay, seeing no further request, we took public comment. I'll go ahead and move to close the public hearing if I hear no objections. Hearing no objections, the public hearing is now closed. Let's go to our city attorney, Martin de Los Angeles.
Thank you, Mayor. So what you have before you is ordinance number 48.22, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Milpitas, amending Chapter 200 of Title 5 of the Milpitas Municipal Code relating to solid waste management. And we'd be looking for a motion to introduce the ordinance with an amendment to Section 5-200-3.22 to delete subsections B and C and reletter subsection D to subsection B as recommended by staff, and waive further reading beyond the title.
Thank you very much, Martin. I'll move to waive the reading beyond the title and introduce ordinance number 48.22, amending Chapter 200, solid waste management of Title 5, Public Health, Safety, and Welfare of the Milpitas Municipal Code. Vice Mayor Montano.
Second.
We have a second from the Vice Mayor. We'll go to the vote. Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan. We have aye from Councilmember Fan. We'll go to the Vice Mayor.
Aye.
And myself is an aye. The motion is carried. That's item number 16. A great job, Elaine, as well as me, Van, I do see, and Tony. Okay, great. That's item number 16. Thank you very much. Let's keep it moving.
Thank you.
Item number 17, adopt resolution for exception to the 180-day wait period in accordance with California Government Code Section 7522.56 and 2122.4. And we'll go to our Director of Finance, Lauren Lai.
Thank you, Mayor. If I may have the slides, I just have a few items to go over. What we have before you is a resolution for the exception to the 180-day wait rule per Government Code Section 7522.56 and 21224. So let me just break it down and unpack it quickly. This is necessary when it's deemed that we have a critical position to fill. As some of you may know, Jane Corpus, the Assistant Finance Director, has served this community for 26 years years and is going to retire December 30th. She has significant expertise and knowledge related to the Milpitas accounting and finance, in particular the operations, system procedures, and complex projects. This proposal is really to focus on what we deem as mission critical projects, and this would be a part-time appointment. Next slide, please. Mission critical projects that we see right now would be the financial system business assessment, managing the fiscal aspects of complex projects such as the TASP impact fee update, the Cayenta financial system. We do a lot of private jobs currently outside of the system. We're implementing that project to ensure the integrity of our private jobs going forward, the accounting and bookkeeping for all those, and also to assist with the utility rate study, which the Department of Public Works is leading. Also, we will utilize her in finalizing the development of finance procedures and checklists and assist in the transition of the critical role of the new assistant finance director. Last slide is to recommend that the council adopt the resolution finding an exception to the 180-day wait period and authorize the city manager to execute the employment agreement with Jane Corpus. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. Our Finance Director, Lauren Lai. We'll go to public comment for item number 17. If you're in the chamber, you'd like to make a public comment for item number 17, that's you. Come on up. Come on. Thank you, Mr. Montemayor.
Yeah, of course, we don't want any delay. It's a very important position. Then there should be somebody holding it. Thank you.
Very much, sir. Hey, feel free to sit in the front if it saves you some steps. Okay, we'll go to the Zoom. Once again, welcome, folks, if you're with us. I do see our valued community members on the Zoom as attendees. If you'd like to speak for item number 17, now would be the time. Please raise your virtual raised hand. Going once, going twice. I don't see. Okay, that's it for public comment for item number 17. Just really quick, I want to give just tremendous kudos to Jane. Our city is honored to have your continued service here as you sort of a transition over these years. I think at least I can speak for my heart is you mean so much to our organization. And I think folks really are going to really appreciate you and all that you've done. I know you've actually been instrumental in my time here in City Hall. I do want to take a moment here to say that in this meeting. Just a tremendous person. Our residents should be very thankful. This is a person with tremendous roots in our community and also really a family of finance. The more you get to know the person. So, objectively, we got a lot of work to do, and I couldn't ask for really any more than having Jane continue here as the item indicates. We'll go to comment here. Next up, we have Councilmember Fan.
Yeah, I also want to thank Jane for her countless hours, countless years of dedication to this organization. She's always been a professional in the highest regard and have brought to our community a wealth of knowledge that I think is going to be sorely missed. She's going to be sorely missed, and it's big shoes to fill. But we're deeply grateful to Jane, and just thank you. And you've led an amazing career that you should definitely be proud of. I know we certainly are.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Fan. We'll go to Councilmember Chua. Sorry, my finger slipped on that last one.
That's all right.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. I echo what Mayor Tran and Councilmember Fan said. I did all of them. And thank you so much, Jane, for those wonderful many, many years of service to our city. Thank you and happy retirement. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. And we'll go to the Vice Mayor, Carmen Montano.
Thank you, Mayor. Jane, she was awesome. And I'm glad that she will be coming back and supporting the staff, because that institutionalized knowledge is very important. And we need her, even though she's going to be retiring, but this is what this is for, so we can give her that 180-day wait period with the CalPERS. Thank you, Jane.
Thank you very much, Jane. And you're getting a key to the city. That's on the way. I just blew the surprise, but we're giving those away. All right. So I'll move to adopt the resolution and as indicated on the agenda item, along with approve. And this motion will also have to approve and authorize the city manager to execute the employment agreement with Jane Corpus. So that's the motion to approve item number 17. And we'll go to Councilmember Chua for a
Second.
We have a second from Councilmember Chua. We'll go back to the vote. Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano.
Aye.
And myself, yes, we did take public comment, squared it away, and myself as an aye. Item number 17 has been approved. Thank you very much, Lauren.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Moving on here to item number 18. Let's introduce ordinance number 262.8, amending various provisions of section 2, public access to meetings of chapter 310, open government ordinance of title 1, administration of the Milpitas Municipal Code. And we'll go to our city attorney this evening. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor. So good evening, Mayor and council members. This item concerns the introduction of ordinance number 262.8, revisions to the open government ordinance. Next slide, please. So as a bit of background, in 2004, the city adopted the open government ordinance, which is codified in chapter 310 of the Municipal Code. And so this was aimed at ensuring openness and transparency with regard to rules, meetings, and public records. The last revisions to this ordinance took place in 2009, and staff has reviewed its provisions and recommends various amendments to ensure it is consistent with state law, as well as current city practices. I'll provide a overview of the proposed changes, which are the first part of this comprehensive review. Next slide, please. So the first change is with respect to the definition of policy bodies, which is found in section I310-2.10 of the code. And so our proposed change modifies the definition of policy bodies by removing references to the redevelopment agency. And it also simplifies the previous language without changing the types of policy bodies subject to the open government ordinance. So just noting that this definition specifically includes city council ad hoc subcommittees as policy bodies. So basically that remains consistent with the current city practice. Next slide, please. Staff has also made changes to the revisions relating to agenda requirements, which are found in section I310-2.30. Specifically, the proposed revisions would clarify that agendas contain a brief but meaningful description of each item. So this language was added to mirror the language in the Brown Act. Additionally, subsection C of this section is also amended to clarify that supporting documentation need not be provided with the agenda, but may be permissibly included in connection with an agenda item. There are also some terms that have been removed that are not consistent with state law. For example, the term person of average intelligence found in this section has been deleted as no such term exists in the Brown Act, and it has been replaced with member of the public. Subsection F in this section is also amended to mirror the language of the Brown Act with respect to emergencies and the addition of urgent items to agendas that take place during notice meetings. So essentially the changes here are, they don't change the authority of the city. They are merely to make clarifying changes and also to ensure that we are consistent with state law. Next slide, please. And so other changes to the agenda requirements include a reference to the City Council Rules Subcommittee. This was changed to the City Attorney's Office. To our knowledge, the Rules Subcommittee has not met, so we've made this change as it is consistent with the current city practice. An additional change is made to section I310-2.80B and C to clarify that agendas are available during meetings and that materials provided by the city are to be made available immediately, with those provided by third parties to be provided as soon as practicable. Next slide, please. And another set of changes includes changes to provisions pertaining to closed session. In general, all requirements or all subsections pertaining to closed sessions as written on the agenda were amended to track the language of the Brown Act. The phrase anticipated issues under negotiation as identification of specific issues under section I310-2.605 is not required by the Brown Act. And so that was one change that we made because it could unnecessarily limit the council from permissible discussion in closed session. Staff also proposes deleting references to Milpitas Supervisors Association, as this group no longer exists. And another change is to section I310-2.70B, which also clarifies that only the court case name and number are required for descriptions pertaining to closed session existing litigation matters. And this is also consistent with applicable legal requirements. Next slide, please. And with respect to closed session and other disclosures, I think this might be a different slide. Oh, that's fine. You can go back to that slide. So the change before you here has to do with written statements. And so section I310-2.50, which concerns additional public statements and comments, we've amended that to clarify that written statements are transmitted to the policy body, but are not read aloud at meetings, as that is currently consistent with the city's practice. And we've also made a change with respect to public testimony and council amendments. We've made the change to reflect the law in that no criticism of a policy body is to be curtailed other than for disruptions of meetings. We've also made an amendment to clarify that the public and the policy body have the same amount of speaking time, with enforcement to be done by the presiding officer and not the city clerk. And with respect to public records, we've modified section I310-2.70A by deleting the requirement that recordings of closed session be kept for 10 years or permanently where economically feasible, since there's no legal requirement that recordings be made or kept in that matter. So we deleted this in favor of an approach that's more consistent with the city practices, in that the recordings be kept for as long as required under the city's records retention policy. So this also would provide staff with additional flexibility to determine an appropriate maintenance period. And finally, on this section, we've made changes to tape recording, filming, and still photography. We've also made changes to make sure it's internally consistent with the city's record retention policy. Next slide, please. And so finally, with public hearing notices and minutes, we've amended section I310-2.40B to differentiate between public hearing notices along with other requirements that are set out by the government code and other notices. And we've amended section I310-2.150 to clarify that minutes are available for inspection and copying when approved by the city council, and to provide some flexibility to staff in that process. Next slide, please. So staff recommends, following the reading of the title by the city attorney, that we move to waive reading beyond the title and introduce ordinance number 262.8, amending various provisions of section 2 public access to meetings of Chapter 310, Open Government Ordinance of Title 1 of the Milpitas Municipal Code. This concludes staff's presentation, and happy to answer questions if needed.
Thank you very much, Martin. Appreciate you. Thank you for the presentation. And let's go to public comment for item number 18. Item number 18, come on up for public comment. We have a person in the chamber, Mr. Montemayor, our cherished commissioner. Welcome back, yes. And we'll get the microphone going. Okay, waiting for the red light for the microphone. No, we'll get you your time back, give you the full 2 minutes. Is there a button for the microphone, perhaps? I know you had turned it, it had operated just last time. Is there a button there? I'm not too sure. We'll pause it for a second there, Commissioner. Yes, 1 second. Okay. We'll get it. I know, right? It was on earlier. We'll get this microphone here. All eyes on you, Mr. Montemayor. We'll get this. No, we gotta, there we go. There's the red light. It's for folks watching at home, perhaps.
I didn't lose those viewers. I think the overriding one is the Brown Act. We have to be careful. All those, we need to have it in written. Like I think we have a city handbook. So in other words, at least we are for the freedom. We don't want anybody hesitating or reluctant to come to the meeting. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you. And that's it for the request from the chamber. Let's go to our online members that are joining us this evening. If there's any comment for item number 18, please raise your virtual raised hand. I see none. Going once, going twice. And that's it for public comment through our hybrid format online with the Zoom. I see your names, folks. You know who you are. There's not too many attendees. I want to thank you for spending your evening with us here in the city of Milpitas, and we'll bring comments back up to the dais. I always love to see some cleanup, touch-up work for some of the things here inside the walls of City Hall, and this item is certainly that. I want to give kudos to our city attorney, Christopher Diaz, for his work on this as well, which includes Martin. I'll give also Martin and BBK a shout out. We will go to my colleagues if there's any comment for item number 18. I will look. I see no comment. That's not a bad thing. And that being said, let's go to our city attorney for the reading of the title.
Thank you, Mayor. Let me just pull that up again. So the title of this ordinance is Ordinance Number 262.8, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Milpitas, amending various provisions of Section 2, Public Access to Meetings of Chapter 310, Open Government Ordinance of Title 1, Administration of the Milpitas Municipal Code. And we'd be looking for a motion to introduce the ordinance and waive further reading beyond the title.
I'll move to waive the reading and introduce the ordinance, and we'll go with our Vice Mayor, Carmen Montano.
I'll second that.
We have a second from the Vice Mayor, and we'll go to the vote. Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano.
Aye.
And myself is an aye. Item number 18 is approved. Thank you very much, Martin. And don't go too far, right? Let's go to item number 19. Let's receive a report regarding publication of ordinances and legal notices in the city and provide direction to staff.
Thank you, Mayor. So for this item, we'll be providing the council a report regarding publication of ordinances and legal notices. Next slide, please. There's a bit of background. State law, specifically Government Code Section 36933, requires that ordinances be published within 15 days after adoption in a newspaper of general circulation, published, printed, and circulated in the city. If no newspaper of general circulation is published, printed, or circulated in the city, then the city has two options. 1, it can post the ordinances in 3 public places in the city, or 2, it can publish in a newspaper of general circulation, published, printed, and circulated in the county. Next slide, please. Government Code Section 65090, which requires notices under the state planning and zoning law, also requires notices to be published in a newspaper of general circulation, published, printed, and circulated in the city. If there is no newspaper of general circulation, then the same options apply. The city can post in 3 public places, or publication may be done in a newspaper of general circulation, published, printed, and circulated in the county. So basically, these are examples of state law requirements, particularly with notices and ordinances that require the city to either post in a newspaper of general circulation in the city, and if that's not available, then to post in 3 public locations or in a newspaper of general circulation that's published, printed, and circulated in the county. Next slide, please. The reason why we've brought this to the attention of the council is that staff has learned that there is no newspaper of general circulation that is printed, published, and circulated in the county, as the Milpitas Post is no longer printed or published in the city. So as mentioned, we're presenting the requirements under the state law, as well as the alternatives under the state law, which allow certain notices and ordinances to be posted in 3 public places, or that they be published and printed in a newspaper of general circulation in the county. I'll turn it over to our city clerk, Wendy Wood, to continue the presentation.
Good evening, Council. The question we want to ask you today is whether to post the ordinances and notices in 3 public places, or to go ahead and publish in a newspaper that's circulated within the county. The other option is to post in the 3 locations, and as a courtesy, continue using the Milpitas Post. The current practice right now, since we learned of the issue, is we are currently posting in 3 locations: at City Hall, at the Senior Center, and at the Sports Center. And we are also publishing in the Milpitas Post as a courtesy. Before you is the newspapers of general circulation within the county. We've provided the submission dates, the fees, and the dates that they publish. And we also listed the Milpitas Post for your reference. So at this time, we'd like to ask direction on what option you would prefer, if you would prefer the posting of the 3 locations, the publishing within the county, or the posting of the 3 locations and publishing as a courtesy.
Thank you very much, Wendy. All right. Let's take public comment for item number 19. Come on up, sir.
Yeah, as simple as no complaints and eventually no litigation, of course, because of these surprises. We don't have newspapers right now, but we can do, I don't know if we will put a note on our agenda, but still, I think the OR or publishing, postal publishing are much better. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, that's all the requests for the chamber here at City Hall. Let's go to the virtual chamber. And we have a virtual raised hand. Barbara Jo Navarro, welcome. And we'll get your microphone up.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Could I see the slide? They said which newspapers. I didn't catch what was on the slide. Can you show the slide or tell me which one?
We'll get that slide.
And I'm happy that they're going to continue with the Milpitas Post. And I was wondering if posting with the Milpitas Beat might be appropriate, even though it's a media newspaper. Let's see, San Jose. I have never even heard of the San Jose Post. What is that?
I'm with you on that.
You know, so I got to tell you, there's got to be another way. Okay. I'm not certain the Santa Clara Weekly or the San Jose Post is going to be very helpful. Milpitas Beat might be a good place to consider. And of course, I know you post on the website. I would really prefer for you to have a way for it to be pushed to the residents so that we could select this on the e-notification system or the system that you're presently using so that it could be pushed to residents and that you advertise that greatly on how to do that. So I'm just throwing that out, food for thought, but I don't believe San Jose and Santa Clara is gonna cut it here, okay?
I'm with you. Thank you. Okay, great. All right.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just clarify on that comment.
Okay.
So yeah, with respect to newspapers, so there's certain requirements under Government Code Section 6000 that they have to be decreed by a court as one of general circulation. So I'm not positive that a paper like the Milpitas Beat would qualify as that. When we went over this with the city clerk, I think she contacted the newspapers that are presented before you, and I think those qualify as newspapers of general circulation that are printed and published in the county and circulated in the city. Is that correct, Wendy?
Correct.
Fantastic. Thank you for that point of information. We always appreciate that. Okay, great. That's it with public comment. We'll bring it back up here to the dais. It's going to be really quick here. I think option 2 will be it, for my opinion, as long as the Milpitas Post continues to circulate 20,000 copies every Friday. I know our residents do pick that up. Last couple of issues of the Milpitas Post, they had the Milpitas High School 2001 class reunion on the front page. Shout out to the Trojans. I know our residents really loved seeing Milpitas on the front page, which doesn't happen enough. And then the last edition, we had one of our small business owners and also residents, Steve Roberts, on the cover. And so it's getting a little better. We do have a new reporter. Geez, what's his name? You know what I'm talking about. And so a few chuckles up here, but we have a new reporter, thank God. But he's here, and I do think there's gonna be more content in the Milpitas Post, and our residents will pick that up. And for as long as Mort Levine has called Milpitas home, I want to go with option number 2. Next up, we have the Vice Mayor, Carmen Montano.
Thank you, Mayor. I also would like option 2. That is, and I'll repeat it, the city can continue to publish in the Milpitas Post as a courtesy and post ordinances and notices in 3 public places in the city in order to meet the legal requirements. So I'd like to second your motion.
Okay, not a motion yet. No motion yet. Next up, Councilmember Chua.
So move.
Okay, any further comment? I want to do a courtesy from the dais. If not, that's okay. Okay, we got a motion from Councilmember Chua. We have a second from the Vice Mayor, and we'll go to the vote. Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano.
Aye.
And myself is an aye for option number 2. And that's going to be direction to staff. Thank you very much. Thank you for the public comment, folks. Moving on, item number 20, let's review proposed City Council procedures and protocols handbook, provide input, and direct staff to bring back for council consideration. Let's go to our Assistant City Manager, Ashwini Kantak.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and council members. Ashwini Kantak, Assistant City Manager. I'll be making a brief presentation for this item and wanted to note that tonight we're not asking council to approve the proposed handbook, but just to provide input to staff so we can bring it back for council consideration at a future meeting. And the proposed handbook consists of 8 chapters. It's focused on the duties, conduct, and actions of the city council, matters related to council meetings, external and internal council communications, as well as the roles of individual council members and other bodies. We have attempted with this proposed handbook to minimize redundancy by removing sections that are already covered in other state or local codes. And this is a change from the previous handbook. You may also note that examples from other cities that were provided to you may have sections that we cover in this city through other bylaws or codes, for example, information about our commissions. And we've been working closely with BBK on this, and Martin de Los Angeles is available for questions on this item as well. So if we could go to the next slide, please. So a little bit of background, the 2004 City Council Handbook was intended to provide guidance to the council in conducting all city business. It was meant to be periodically updated in order to reflect either changes in the law or in council procedures or policies. However, before 2018, the updates were not timely, but the last update was being done in 2007. So there were several sections that were outdated and also duplicative of other state and local codes, and it was clear that a comprehensive update was needed. So on September 18, 2018, Council established an ad hoc Council Handbook Subcommittee to provide guidance to staff on the update. The subcommittee met over a couple of months, and the discussion was initially focused on Chapter 5, which is meeting agendas, because at that time we were looking at a new agenda management system as well as process improvements. And in October, this specific chapter was approved, Chapter 5, and the subcommittee continued to provide direction on the remaining chapters of the handbook. Next slide, please. In December, staff brought a proposed City Council handbook in a new streamlined format for council consideration. But we had two newly elected council members, and so the council at that time wanted more time to consider the item. Council provided direction to staff to provide examples of other handbooks from different cities and bring the item back at a future council retreat. So staff provided examples from 9 other cities in early 2019. These are also included as part of your agenda packet. And since then, the need to update this handbook has come up in various council meetings, including a council retreat. And in 2021, we received a specific request about incorporating guidance for external communications, such as press releases, into this handbook. And since this is a document that guides council in conducting city business in according to what's current rules and regulations, and also aligned with best practices, bringing forward the streamlined City Council Protocols and Procedures Handbook is outlining basically the City Council's governing practices is pretty important and being proposed for your consideration today. Next slide, please. So I'll just really briefly cover all the 8 chapters and then happy to take questions on any details. So Chapter 1 outlines the purpose of the handbook, which is to provide guidance on City Council governing practices. And this applies, of course, when it's not in conflict with the Constitution or the laws of the state of California or the Municipal Code of Milpitas. And any future revisions will also be recorded in this Chapter 1. Chapter 2 basically outlines the duties of the City Council and roles of the City Manager as well as City Attorney. Milpitas, as you know, has a council manager form of governance in which the elected City Council sets policy direction and the City Manager implements the policy, manages day-to-day operations, and provides professional recommendations to support the City Council on policy decisions. And so this chapter basically outlines the general authority and duties of the council, as well as specific duties of the mayor and vice mayor. There's some guidance about council absences and vacancies, and it also provides information on the roles of the city manager as well as the city attorney. Chapter 3 covers mayor and council member conduct. And so we've incorporated the approved code of conduct that is included on every agenda and is also read aloud at every council meeting. And in addition to that, we've included best practices related to council meetings as well as council conduct with staff. Thank you. Chapter 4 covers different types of meetings. So that includes regular and special meetings, study sessions, closed sessions, as well as emergency meetings. And we've also updated this to reference virtual meetings. The process for conducting these various meetings is included in this chapter. There are guidelines for public participation as well as conflict of interest guidelines in this chapter. Chapter 5, as I'd mentioned, this was previously approved by council in 2018, but since then the city council has made some changes and these are reflected in the proposed handbook. So this outlines the detailed order of the agenda, including the different sections. It also outlines the submission process for the agenda items and notes guidelines related to meeting minutes. And so we've added a brief reference about what the council now goes through the quarterly prioritization process. That's been noted in here. And then the next chapter, chapter 6, includes city council actions. And these include proclamations and commendations, which do not require formal action. And then ordinances, resolutions, and motions, which do require formal action, with ordinances being the most formal. They typically need to be introduced at a meeting, adopted at a following meeting, and then take 30 days to go into effect. And these are necessary when state law either requires a regulation to be adopted by an ordinance, or we are required to amend or repeal provisions of the municipal code and to impose regulations on any persons or property in the city. Next slide, please. So chapter 7 covers communication, and this includes guidance related to the California Public Records Act, the Ralph M. Brown Act. It also covers general correspondence from council, communication with the Planning Commission, as well as other external communications such as press releases. And then the last chapter, chapter 8, which is council liaison roles. So this really provides guidance for council to participate as liaisons either to other city bodies such as council subcommittees and commissions, or also council role related to the other bodies that are effectively council but serve a different role, such as the Financing Authority and the Housing Authority Commission. And this chapter also covers when council members are representing the city on regional boards and other outside agencies. And next slide, please, which is last slide. In summary, we're bringing forward again a streamlined version of a handbook that will guide city council governing practices. And we look forward to your input and to bring this back for your consideration at a future meeting. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashwini, for the presentation. Certainly an item we're looking to accomplish here in the city, I believe. I will go to public comment, item number 20. Come on up, sir.
Oh, that's inspiring, especially the word handbook there. Anyway, like I believe we're avoiding overlapping, but sometimes we cannot. We have to oversee the others' duties. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. And that's public comment for the chamber here at 455 East Calaveras Boulevard in the city of Milpitas. We'll go to the 455 East Calaveras Boulevard in the sky. If anybody on Zoom would like to contribute with their comment, now would be the time. I see no virtual raised hands going once, going twice. Is item 20. Okay, that's it for public comment. We'll bring it back to the council here. I love the city council handbook. It's been really a guiding document for me through good and bad here in City Hall. And there's nothing I love more than a policy to reference. Perhaps I want to ask about the motions section of the handbook. I believe, to the best of my recollection, there was a motion to subpoena in the previous edition of the City Council Handbook. I'm not sure if I see that in this draft. Perhaps there's some more information, please.
Sure, Mayor Tran, and you're right, there was language about subpoenas, and it is not included in this, and I will defer to Martin if he wants to respond. I know I worked closely with Chris on this earlier, and it seemed like, again, Mayor, as I'd mentioned, some of the language in the handbook is already covered somewhere else, and so we were trying not to be duplicative. So Martin, if you can respond to that.
Yeah, I think to Ashwini's point, I think to the extent that that would be covered in another policy, I think that was the reason why that was taken out, Mayor.
Very well, very well. Which policy would that be, if I may ask?
Let's see.
Thank you very much. See, I've been reading my handbook. See that?
That's good, man. And Mayor, if we're not able to respond to that question, we're happy to follow up. I know I had a specific discussion with Chris about this one, so we'll get back to you.
Okay, I think that's I'm always looking to be very plentiful in my toolbox of motions. That's why I bring up the question here for item number 20. And so that's just one example. I think for tonight, I'm going to need another meeting to go over the handbook, because once we approve it, it'll be good for many years, and I just want to understand it a little better. And so I'll go to my colleagues here for their opinions. I'm only one person, so we'll go to my colleagues here for any requests for item number 20. We're reviewing the proposed City Council Procedures and Protocols Handbook. And if folks would like to provide input or possibly direction, now's a good time. But I do want to say, while I have the microphone here, is that excellent job. Simplified, very modernized. And I think it's going to be something that future councils, maybe I'll be around, but I think future councils will really live with very well. And I think a lot of what was in the 2002 edition is no longer applicable and such. So I do want to speak very positively, and I can't wait to approve this. I just would like to have a meeting, maybe on Monday or some Monday, to just have a general discussion about it. Okay, item number 20, let's go to the Vice Mayor, Carmen Montano.
Thank you, Mayor. So referring to the code of conduct, I know the last bullet mentions council will hold one another accountable to comply with this code of conduct. So my question is, how do we hold someone accountable?
I can take that one. Let me take that one. Yeah, we do. It's hard, freedom of speech, and but we do have the censure policy.
So I guess I wanted to ask the city attorney.
Okay, let's go to the city attorney.
Censure.
Yeah, I think the idea of accountability is that would be provided through the censure procedures. I think accountability itself is the code of conduct is meant for the council to, hopefully resolve disputes in an informal way, and then if it has to, go to a point where censure is an option, then that would be the next step. But accountability. Sorry.
Oh, is that in here?
It's a separate policy, so that's what I think when Attorney Diaz has talked about it, that is what you would refer to. It's a separate policy, Vice Mayor, so it's not within the handbook.
But we do have that.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I guess that's what I was looking for.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Vice Mayor, and we're now. Yeah. Okay. So can I request to bring this item back for next meeting? Perhaps on consent. I just want to have a dialogue with our city manager because that's the person, and actually the city attorney. Just specific questions about the handbook. Just I'm pondering a couple of things, and I would feel better. And I appreciate everybody's support and their time. As much as I look forward to approving this. I like to request a little more time if that's okay. Be very gentle about it, but okay, great. We have another request from a Vice Mayor Montano.
Thank you. So, Ashwin, this is for Ashwin. Do we have something in here on closed session? Is there-
Yes.
What
Yes, we
chapter is
do.
that in?
Under the meetings, the different types of meetings. So depending on what you're looking for in closed session.
Like leaks, people using their cell phones in the closed session, that type of language. Is it in here?
Yes, so.
I'll look at it.
Tell you,
It's gonna come back to us, but I
Yeah.
just wanna.
Page 9, Vice Mayor.
All
It's
right,
on page
thank you
9
so
of the
much.
closed sessions about kind of confidentiality and not disclosing anything outside of the closed session.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, great. I think I have number 20 here, the City Council Handbook. I'll call it that. That's a shorter description, but this update will really probably stand for another maybe decade minimum. So just tremendous work. Just want to look into it some more. I did not cover it 100% completely, so I acknowledge that on my behalf. And if I can be granted more time from our great city staff, I humbly ask for it. Thank you. Okay, great. So we'll move item number 20 to the next city council meeting agenda. I do think we have a special meeting coming up, so maybe we can throw 20 on there the last week of November and just wrap it up. Just get it done. So I thank you, Ashwini, for your work on this. We really do appreciate it. Okay,
Sure, Aaron, could I just get a clarification? So this item today before you was not for approval anyway. So do you want us
Okay.
to continue 20 or do you want us to bring it back for approval at the next meeting after we've had the opportunity to talk to you?
I hear what you're saying. Well, we definitely want to bring it through the council. And so let's bring item to number 20 back as stated.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. But my mindset is just to approve it, because it's a tremendous item. So again, I want to say thank you. Okay, great. Let's keep going here. We have 3 more items that were pulled from the consent. Let's go to C5, adopt resolution granting acceptance of public improvements and approve reduction of faithful performance bond for the public improvements for the Amalfi Apartments and granting authorization to the city engineer to release the performance bond after the 1-year warranty period. And we'll go to our Director of Engineering, Steve Erickson.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. This is a standard item for acceptance of public improvements that were completed. Was there a specific question on this item that I could answer?
Absolutely. We'll go to the Vice Mayor, Carmen Montano.
Thank you, Steve. I just had a quick question on this, and since this is in regards to improvements, in that area, I was just wondering, was there a public? We had a public ordinance, an arts ordinance, and I was just wondering if was a public art ordinance? Did they provide that? Is that part of this?
I do not have an answer for that question. I'd have to get back to you. That's not part of the public improvement agreement or the public improvements that was done, but it may have been done for on-site work. I don't know. I'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay, great. If you can just get back, I think if they didn't, they think they owe us some artwork in that area. Okay, thank you. With that, I would go ahead and approve this. Is there a second?
We got to take we go public comment here. Item number 5, if there's any public comment. Item number 5, if there's any public comment in the chamber or on the chamber in the sky on the Zoom, please raise your virtual raised hand if there's any public comment. We have public comment here. Mr. Montemayor, come on up.
I'm not doing finance, but I think it's positive note when I see a reduction of the paid performance bond to that big money. I think that's positive. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay, I see no further public comment for item number 5. And we'll go to the vice mayor for a motion.
So move.
Okay, we got a motion to approve item number 5. I'll second that. And we'll go to the vote. Okay, welcome back. Councilmember Chua, we're voting.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano,
Aye.
and myself is an aye. Item number 5 is approved. Moving on to item number 8, approve and adopt the proposed City Americans with Disability Act, Section 504 compliant, 504 complaint grievance procedure. And we're still with our Director of Engineering, Steve Erickson.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So this item is to recommend the council approve and adopt a complaint and grievance procedure in compliance with the ADA Act. City does not currently have a policy, and so that is the recommendation. Is there a specific question on this?
Yes, there is. We'll go to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Steve. Yes, and I am glad that we do have a complaint grievance form. However, this is for people that have a grievance, but many businesses are not aware of ADA rules and regulations. So I was just wondering if our city does some type of education to let the businesses know that some kind of guidance of being compliant with ADA rules.
Again, that would be an area that's outside engineering. That would be something I could reach out to the planning department, maybe the building department, and try to get an answer for you.
Yeah, that would be good because there have been several small businesses that were sued and it really had an economic impact on their business. So and as a city, we should be able to at least educate them or give some kind of follow-up. So those are just my thoughts, and I will go ahead and approve this.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I do want to take a moment here for the discussion to really, I really agree with the Vice Mayor here. I was over at Burrito Express, and they got hit with the ADA circumstance, and I get it. There's a policy. They weren't adhering to the ADA policies, but maybe our city can go above and beyond whichever department it may be, maybe planning or building or economic development, just to send a notice out citywide to our small businesses who are most vulnerable. That's why the Vice Mayor's voice really rings true right now. It's our family-owned, immigrant-owned businesses. If we can direct the city manager right now, or even, I think we'll do that. Just if we can send, it's going to cost some money, these postcards or what have you. But I think the Vice Mayor is right on this one. We gotta, I think as a city, advocate for our small businesses. I don't know, Steve, what do you think? How can we do that?
I think it's such a great idea that I believe it was brought up. There was some discussion in the past. I believe it was from the council, and staff did act on that. We just completed a webinar. I can send you an email on how that went, what we covered, how that went, and that was exactly what you're talking about, and that was our target audience.
Yeah, that was a webinar.
I'm thinking of a postcard.
I think going above that, and I also wanted to mention that Councilmember Chua has some information on the city of Mountain View if she wants to chime in.
Okay, yeah, she's next. Whenever you will.
So anyway, those are my thoughts.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think a postcard, postcards aren't cheap, but you got a lot of businesses. Okay, next up, we have Councilmember Chua.
Thank you, Mayor Tran. I actually have a request, an item on our agenda list to really look into that, the ADA, and how we can help our small businesses prevent any lawsuits. And I have attended the Mountain View Chamber of Commerce regarding this one. And also recently, a couple of weeks ago, I attended the Economic Development Alliance of Santa Clara County, and with this topic on hand. So I learned a lot, and hopefully next meeting, we can prioritize that ADA item that I introduced couple of months ago.
Wonderful.
Thank you
wonderful.
so much.
No, this is great. Let's bring it back to item number 8. Item number 8, public comment for item number 8. Come on up, Mr. Montano.
Yeah, at least the city is taking care of everybody. Like when the word grievances is there, we could be strict, assertive, but friendly. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And we'll go to our Zoom. I do see a virtual raised hand from a panelist. I'm not sure who's Council 6 on the Zoom. It's interesting, but I don't see any video or someone. What are the attendees? I'll focus on the attendees. Members of the public, if you'd like to make a comment for item number 8. Okay, I don't see any virtual raised hands going once, going twice. That's it for public comment. Okay, we took public comment. Let's go to Councilmember Chua.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Chan. It's actually on the agenda item request. It's actually number 50 that was introduced on August 5th, 2021.
Perfect. Okay, great. We got it. We got it then. Thank you for the point of information. I love it. Okay, that's it for public comment. Item number 8. I'll move to approve item number 8. Need a second. Okay, hold on. It's the vice mayor there with the button.
Second.
We got a second from the vice mayor to approve item number 8. We'll go to the vote. Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano.
Aye.
And myself is an aye. Item number 8 has been approved. Thank you very much, Mr. Erickson. Moving on to item number 11, award IFB number 2022-014 to Jam Services and authorize the city manager to purchase decorative light poles and fixtures for that not to exceed amount of $152,085.94. We'll go to our Director of Public Works, Tony Enda, and I know the Vice Mayor had the inquiry. Tony.
Good evening, Mayor and Vice Mayor, City Council members. Tony Dow here to answer questions on item number 11.
And we'll go to Vice Mayor Montano.
Thank you, Tony. I just wanted to mention that the decorative lights on Able, I counted, there's about 10 missing. So I'm really glad that they're finally going to be replaced. You know, people crash into them and then they've been empty for I think maybe 5 years, 6 years. But the main thing here is it does stay let me read this. The decorative street lights installed in the city are manufactured by Lumec, consisting of single or twin luminaire and made of black decorative cast 356 aluminum. So I just wanted to clarify that they're not black. They're like a blue green or some other color. So that's what I wanted to point out. And so with that, that's it.
Yeah, thank you for pointing that out, Vice Mayor. That was an error, a typo on staff's part. It is a textured navy blue material and consistent with the specs worked out. Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you very much. We'll go to public comment for item number 11. Item number 11, public comment. Come on up, sir. It's the last public comment of the evening for the last agenda item we have to accomplish tonight. So make it good, sir.
Yeah, no problem. It brightens the atmosphere, or brightens Milpitas. Beautify. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much. Okay. We'll go to our Zoom attendees. Thank you for sticking with us tonight. This is towards the end, as you know, and not a bad time of the evening. And I really want to thank the council for that, but public comment from the Zoom. Anybody, virtual raised hands, going once, going twice. That's it for public comment. And so we'll go to the vice mayor for item number 11.
Thank you. So I would like to move forward on awarding the IFB number 2022 to Jam Services.
Is there,
The city manager.
did you make a motion?
Yeah, that's the motion.
Okay, I'll second that motion to approve item number 11. We'll go to the vote. Councilmember Chua.
Aye.
Councilmember Fan.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Montano.
Aye.
And myself is an aye. The motion is carried. Item number 11 has been approved. And that's it, folks. I want to give thanks to everybody in the city of Milpitas for doing a fine job. This meeting is adjourned.